When am I ever going to use this? This is an extremely common phrase said about school subjects. With the ease of access to information online, and various tutorials, guides, and the like, if you want to gain knowledge, the resources are there as long as you have an internet connection. However, in this video, I want to explain the core purpose for each subject, and what skills each of them are trying to build. Whether or not you feel you learn these during your time in education doesn't matter necessarily, as I believe you are capable of learning these skills so long as you know what they are. Starting first with English language arts. At the most basic level, ELA aims to teach you how to read, write, understand, and speak in the English language. Communication is necessary for all aspects of life, and being able to achieve literacy in a given language builds the fundamentals to understanding practically every other subject on this list. However, one of the most integral and controversial skills in ELA is media literacy. With so much information at our fingertips, we must be able to discern right from wrong. We have to learn to understand nuance and perspective. Just because you read it online doesn't mean it's true, and we build this skill when we analyze literature and poetry. The joke people like to say is, the curtains were blue because they're just blue. But that's a diminutive idea to the concept of critical thinking. Granted, do people sometimes overanalyze innocuous information? For sure. But the opposite is just as true, and I'd argue is much more damaging. When you can't tell who to believe, or get caught up in echo chambers distorting your sense of reality, you can't interact with the world around you. You have to be able to look at things from a more critical lens, or you're gonna take everything at face value. This comprehension is vital to modern life. Second is mathematics. At the basic level, math teaches us skills like counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It's easy to see why math proves itself to be very applicable in its simplest form. We use it every day, from budgeting to cooking, it's everywhere. The lifeblood of our society is run on numbers, so knowing how to do mathematic equations allows you to see how things in society function. It's the basis for STEM after all. But just as important, math teaches you logic. Essentially, a math problem is a logical puzzle. It's not interpretive or creative like ELA. There's a correct answer expected to the question, and the purpose is finding that answer on your own. But the answer is really not the point. You're not learning what to think, but how to think. We learn to analyze the information and answer appropriately. Third is science. In the most basic sense, science explores how the world works and how we interact with it. From the water cycle, biology, plate tectonics, you name it. If math is the lifeblood of society, science helps us see the source code of reality. Science begs us to question things. The scientific method is probably the largest takeaway most people get from the subject. The method consists of running tests to gather data and evidence to prove a hypothesis. This makes science another subject that teaches logic. However, unlike math, science teaches us through experimentation. Our understanding of the universe we exist in continues to change and grow. And with that, we see that science teaches us how to change our minds. We don't have all the answers, but using science, we can work to find answers to questions we don't even know we're going to ask yet. Science is a process, not a conclusion, just like life itself. Fourth is social studies. At its core, social studies teaches us how societies work and the behavior of people. We see this in history, geography, government, and economics classes. Having knowledge of the past is integral to seeing and learning mistakes made by our predecessors. It's easy to disconnect ourselves from the past or to glorify it and not see it for all the hardships overcome in those times. We separate ourselves from any tragic events like wars or plagues because we weren't there. It's hard to understand the minds of people who aren't alive anymore, but social studies gives us insight to see what has gone wrong. Moreover, social studies teaches us how and why people make the choices they do. We like to think of the notion that we wouldn't be so ignorant in the past and would have stood up against racism or other bigotry, when that may have not been the case. The reality is that acting morally righteous in the face of adversity is difficult. Think to yourself if there are beliefs you once held that you no longer do now. What environmental, societal, or sociological factors contributed to you thinking the way that you did? And what were the factors that led you to think another way? This is the essence of what social studies gets us to understand. We are not simply learning history. We experience it every single day. The choices we make, not just as individuals, but as a society, change the direction of our lives. And if we want a better world for ourselves, each other, and the future generations, we have to keep these ideas in mind. Fifth is physical education, or PE. Outside of the four core subjects, physical education lends itself to being important for every single person. We all have bodies, and those bodies need physical activity to function properly. From developing our motor skills to using sports as a stress relief. The purpose is to give time to have structured physical activity during the school day, and to provide the framework for working in a group, such as being on a basketball team. However, physical education tends to leave much to be desired from the standpoint of those who are less athletic. How do you build muscle efficiently? How does one practice healthy nutrition? How do you get started with exercise outside of school? These are all questions that tend to leave many feeling overwhelmed or intimidated by their scope and by their more capable peers. My guess is that this is a factor that has led to the craze of looksmaxxing, or other related concepts in the self-improvement genre. Regardless of that, it's still worth your time to make the effort to be physically active. Every little bit counts. Find something you enjoy doing, whether that be running, swimming, or some organized sport, and you'll be happy that you did. 6 is fine arts. Examples include music, art, dance, or theater. And these classes teach us about creativity, artistic expression, social skills, and teamwork. Just like PE, we find the arts are something we cannot live without. Just tell someone you drive without listening to music, and they'll look at you like you're a monster. We consume so much media all the time that it's hard to understand living away from it. Finding a fine art you enjoy can lend itself to being a way to interact with others in a space where you're all learning a skill. Learning how to perform, make music, or create are fundamental parts of human experience, and help in displaying our emotions. Aside from learning the art itself, we see connections form in these areas of our life. You really get to know someone when you're creative with them, and you learn how to work with people you don't like when you're on the same team. It's emblematic of real life. What we take from the fine arts and sports teams is how we build relationships with others. It's no surprise young adults can feel separated from social circles if they're no longer in school, training, or in jobs that leave them isolated from their colleagues. We lack spaces that provide structure like these in adult life. Granted, we have bars and clubs, but the feeling of pressure to spend money to interact with other people leaves us with another problem. We seek art as we seek connection to other people, and what the fine arts shows us is that we must find that place to belong, no matter how long it takes us to find it. 7th is technology. On a bit of a different note, from a very early age, infants and children are exposed to the internet and how to use smart devices, which has its own variety of issues. So technology class in schools can unintentionally turn themselves into iPad free time. If there's a way to play Minecraft on that thing, they'll figure it out. While the usefulness of technology seems to be understood, the largest takeaway from the subject should be digital literacy and internet etiquette. Modern stranger danger, essentially. If social studies teaches us how we behave in real life, technology courses can show us how to protect ourselves online. If I had a VPN sponsor, that would have been the perfect segue. The internet is forever, and millennials and older Gen Z who grew up with it are very familiar with the concept. Your internet footprint is real, and the receipts will stay there. While being online provides anonymity and the ability to connect with others, not everyone online has good intentions, nor do they have your best interest in mind. You have to learn to use your own discretion in what information you provide about yourself on the internet, and what potential ramifications those may have on you. 8th is health. This subject is very similar to PE in the way we get to learn about our bodies. This coincides with sex ed or other related topics like psychology. Here we learn how the body and the mind work, alongside what happens as you age or use certain substances like alcohol, which can be helpful as you get older, but the conversations discussing these topics seem to be lacking. We're living in a time of a loneliness epidemic, and people crave interaction with others, even if they say they'd rather not. We're just not wired to be all alone. Maybe it's outside of the scope of a health class, but it does make sense considering we discuss body and mind. We need support in times of crisis. How do you help a friend who's depressed? How do you know when it's time to leave a relationship? How do you find what you want to do with your life? We need a place for this. And maybe that's more of a job of a counselor, but sometimes the people who need more help may not want to admit it. Besides teaching us what happens to our body's health, maybe a more comprehensive class teaches us how to actually live a healthy life. 9th is foreign language. As the name suggests, this class provides a structure for learning an additional language. This does have mixed results, as it's easily seen that this type of learning is best introduced at a younger age, when most of language development happens, or to completely immerse oneself in the culture by going abroad, which is not really an option for most people. Alongside learning language, we explore different cultures similar to social studies. Being able to see how other societies communicate gives us the framework for viewing alternate perspectives. Just because we grew up one way doesn't necessarily mean it's superior to another group. We have to think broader. We all exist in the context we live in, and we are the combination of all these components of nature and nurture. And it's through broadening our horizons, we open the door to seeing how vast the world truly is. Not to mention the benefits you get while traveling or in certain career paths. 10th is career and technical education. Last on our list is something a bit different. CTE classes provide opportunities to learn different skills and professions such as welding, robotics, cosmetology, and culinary arts. Classes like these help individuals find easy access to joining the workforce. This type of class is probably the most obvious when it comes to what exactly the benefits are. You get to learn a specific skill set for a job. With it being so straightforward, these types of experiences are good to get early on, to see what is expected out of you in a work context. And the ability to get certified in a specific trade proves itself to be highly valuable. Unlike some of the other subjects on this list, these will be very dependent on what region you're in. and what the local job market looks like, not to mention the school budget that's needed to support these types of programs. Now that we've discussed them all, something important to address with all of these classes are the teachers who teach them. In your own experience, you may have not gotten the full extent of the purpose behind each of these subjects for one reason or the other. Despite that, the ability to develop these skills is something that is still possible when you're out of the public education system. As mentioned earlier, resources are abundant online as long as you know what to look for. And hopefully with this video, those skills seem a bit more clear to you now. Do you or did you have a favorite subject in school? And do you feel that the purposes I listed for each of them suffice? Or do you think I missed something in my explanations? I'm excited to hear what you have to say. As always, if you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.